Amazing. Thanks so much and welcome everybody to the Microsoft Viva Days event. It's a one-day virtual event talking about all things Viva. Don't forget to answer the quiz. There's chances to win lots of great prizes. You can see some examples on my screen. So in this session, we are going to be looking at Viva Insights. The last couple of sessions, we've been looking at Viva Connections. I'm going to look at a different module of Viva. And what I'm going to look at today is analytics to improve collaboration behaviours in the workplace. So what is Viva? What are Viva Insights specifically? What challenges does it solve? What are the different levels and insights into Viva Insights? And I also want to talk through privacy and security and compliance with Viva Insights as well, because we're working with data. So I'll run through these relatively quickly and dive into the demonstration. So recently, Microsoft released its annual Work Trend Index. And what that index was, it was a study of about 30,000 people across 31 countries. And in that study, they found that there was actually 73% of workers said that they want remote work options. So that's fair enough. But at the same time, 67% of people said they want more in-person collaboration. So what we're seeing here is employees are saying, I want to work from home, I want to work remote, but I also want to be connected in person as well. And that is what we would call the hybrid work paradox. What we're also seeing is, over the last year, the line between work and life is really beginning to blur, and we're always on, we're always connected, we're always making a sense of, huge amounts of information, we're doing multiple tasks, multiple deliverables, and all of that demands our attention at any given time. So burnout is a real problem. It has been on the troublesome trajectory for, several years now. And what we're seeing is that always on, mode is just really unsustainable. And according to a recently published global survey, 85% of people said that their well-being has declined, and over half of those people have said that their job demands have increased. So what we're seeing when it comes to a personal cost for the individual, that can translate into huge losses across your organization in terms of productivity and attrition. If people are burnt out, if they're overworked, they'll leave and they won't be as productive because they're burnt out and overworked. And well-being and balance are really mission critical to any organization, because if anything is unsustainable for your people, it's also going to be unsustainable for your business. And that is why we have Viva Insights. Viva Insights is an employee experience platform, part of Microsoft Viva, focusing on well-being. And it does that by using data and analytics to surface insights to the right people at the right time to help improve work habits. So that's the challenges that Viva Insights is solving. It's helping us when we're remote working, feeling connected, and also with burnout. So what is Viva Insights and what does it do? There are 3 levels to Viva Insights. And some of you may already be using Viva Insights, you may already be familiar with it, and there is a license cost to some of this. So that's just to make you aware. So we first of all start from the bottom up. We have individual insights. Individual Insights, it used to be called My Analytics. So if you've been using Microsoft 365 for a little while, you might already be familiar with that. So they've rebranded My Analytics to Individual Insights. Individual Insights, this comes as part of Office 365. So if you've got any kind of Office 365 enterprise or business licensing, you should have access to this Individual Insights. And the Individual Insights is a personal view for your employees to access, their habits and book focus time and basically improve their well-being at work. So if I just show you what the Individual Insights looks like, the way that I would access it is through Microsoft Teams. So this is an app that we would access on Microsoft Teams. You can see on the left-hand side, I've got Viva Insights here. If you wanted to actually check your tenant now, if you haven't used it before, all you would need to do is click on the 3 dots, search for Viva Insights, and if it's not blocked by your administrator, then it should be there for you. And when you open it up, you'll see this. You may actually also be familiar with the emails that it sends you at the beginning of the day or the end of the day as your kind of wrap up, which you can turn those off, by the way, if you don't like those. But this is Viva Insights, and this is the individual insights. This is what you'll have with Office 365. In here, I can see some activities for me. This is a personal view for the individual, so nobody else can see this information. And I can look at some activities and things that I can do to build better work habits. I could send praise to colleagues if I haven't praised anyone in a while. I can reflect on how I'm feeling and actually look at a reflection of my, happiness at work. I can also do some meditation, so I can take a 10-minute break and do some meditation. And that's not for everybody, but if you read any kind of productivity books and how to kind of work smarter and instead of harder, meditation is a big part of that. So that's why it's included. It's a really important part of well-being and getting your head in the right space. But what we also have in the personal insights is some things that I can do to be a little bit more productive. So for instance, I can choose to look at some tasks that I've said I would do in my email. So what this information is pulling from is Outlook and Teams. So anything I've done in an email. So if I've emailed someone and said, I'll send you that document, what it will do is it will pull that email into a card and it will show you that you have said that you will send this document. And it'll ask you, have you done that? Yes or no. You can mark it as done and keep track of your tasks through email. It will also surface things like if you haven't RSVP'd to a meeting, so you might need to RSVP and let people know if you're going to attend or not, that type of thing. It's going to surface that into the Viva Insights app. What I can also do is book focus time. We're in back-to-back meetings, especially remote working. We're in a meeting, every minute of the day. Maybe you should book some focus time to actually get your work done. And what I can do is I can book that out on my calendar in Outlook and Teams. So it will automatically pull a space where I'm free and it will put an appointment in, saying focus time, and it will do that automatically for me. It also integrates with Microsoft To Do, so you can, keep track of your tasks. I can mark tasks as completed and so on. So we have an individual insights just helping book focus time, take a break, just that bit of well-being piece when people are working from home. This is what you'll get with Office 365, but there is, and apologies, I'm going relatively quickly on this. There is another level to Viva Insights, and that is the Manager Insights. This is where you're going into, extra licensing territory. You may need to, or you will need to pay for an additional Viva Insights license to be able to access some of this stuff. But in here, I can see Manager Insights. Now, what the Manager Insights does is it allows managers to help identify work patterns that might lead to burnout or stress. It's really difficult for a manager to see if his team or her team or their team are working, till 10 o'clock at night. If they are burnt out, if they're stressed, if they're not coping, how can a manager see that when they're not in the same room and we're working from home? Well, Viva Insights can really help with that. And the way that it can help is by surfacing habits and insights to the manager that will be useful. So if you have the manager license, if you have the additional license, you'll be able to see a tab at the top called My Team. Now, in My Team, the manager will be able to see their team members. And this is pulling from Azure AD. So it will automatically share, say this is your team based on Azure AD. If it's not correct and not updated, the manager can go in and, remove people and add people if they want to and confirm that's their team. So they can customize that, and they can do that anytime. They can customize their team. The Manager Insights is slightly different. If I scroll down, the Manager Insights is actually going to give me two lots of insights. So I can look at my own habits. I'm just going to click these notifications away. So my own habits as a manager, and these habits are really helping you look at how your habits are impacting your team. So if I click on Explore More and just look at some of these habits, I'll be able to see, what I'm doing that might impact my team. So I have been in 29 meetings with my team members. So that's, that's a good sign. I'm talking to my team, I'm working with them. But I can look at if I have, RSVP'd to the invite and just, turned up. I can look at meetings where I've multitasked. So what this is doing is it's actually pulling the information of when you join that Teams meeting, were you sending emails? Were you sending chat messages? Were you responding to channel messages? It's pulling all of that together to say, well, you were in this meeting, but actually you were multitasking, so you weren't focused. Was the meeting too long? Was it overlapping with other meetings? All of these insights just to let me know how I'm kind of doing with my when it comes to meetings with my team. But I can scroll down and look at if I've had a one-to-one with my team. Have I actually been talking to them? When's my next one-to-one? When's my last one-to-one? Just to make sure I'm having that kind of coaching space and time with my team members. I can look at my quiet hours impact. So in here, I can actually see if I've been contacting my team out of work hours. Have I been sending them a message through chat? Have I been sending them an email? And in this case, I've actually been sending quite a lot of emails to my team members when they're not supposed to be working. And so I might want to reduce that so I'm not, helping and supporting that burnout, always on, always connected kind of mentality. So I have insights as a manager to look at what I'm doing and how it's impacting my team. But I not only have that, I do have recommendations from Microsoft to say, here's some things you can do. So look at your daily contact with your team members. How often are you contacting them? And I can look at suggestions and things to improve that. And it will also inform me of why that's important. I can look at my meeting impact. Am I sending too many meetings? Am I not spending enough time in meetings with my team? Are they back to back? Are they too long? What can I do and why is that important? So as a manager, I get insights to look at how I'm impacting my team, but I will also get insights on how my team are doing. So I have my group insights, which I'm just going to click to explore more. And in here, I can see where it's taking that information. So it's looking from the last couple of months. I've got 13 people in my team, and I can see how much time I'm spending with my team in one-to-ones. So that goes to coaching and development. I can look at how much my team are collaborating after hours. Are they working late where they're not supposed to be? And it will compare my team to other teams in the organization. And what's really nice about this is that I will have best practices, and these best practices are actions that I can do. So in here, it's recommending that maybe you should create email signatures and recommend that your team do the same with your working hours. So people are not contacting them when they're not supposed to be working. And there's a link to go ahead and create that email signature. What about the delay feature? There's a new, the add-in delay feature for Outlook to delay email delivery to your team. So you're not sending emails out of hours. So I have this across the board. I have it across meeting information, again, the best practices. I also have, do my team spend too much time in meetings? Are they having any focus time? And again, view best practices, and I can create a plan around that. So it's very important for a manager to be able to get insight into their team members to see if there is risk of burnout, if there's anything they can do to improve that. And that is something that you'll get with the Viva Insights add-on as well. It doesn't stop there. There is another level up, which is the Leader Insights. So the Leader Insights is really looking at leaders with a view across the entire business, the entire organization. How are my departments collaborating? What's the cohesion like? Are people working after hours? But I'm looking at it across everybody in the organization, not just my specific team. And the Leader Insights, again, can be accessed through Microsoft Teams. And I'll have a My Organization tab. So in here, what you will see is I have some business outcomes. On the left-hand side, there's about 8 business outcomes. And within each outcome, it will show me insights based on my data, which I'll go through in a second where the data comes from, of how we can improve. So how can I improve and boost my engagement? Well, it's going to break it down for me into cards. It's going to show me that, Boosting engagement, coaching and development is very important to help boost engagement. And actually only 48% of employees have met with their manager and had a one-to-one. So what I might want to do from here is actually view best practices and create an action plan for me to be able to encourage my managers to have more one-to-ones with their staff. What about my employees that are working outside of their working hours? What can I do? What's the best practices? And what's the average weekly time? So you have these insights and the best practices across all of these 8 business scenarios or business outcomes. And what you'll see is that this is all aggregated data. I do not see any information about specific users or any personal identifiable information. So this is just pulling information that's going to be useful for me as a leader. It's just surfacing those insights so I can take action and view best practices to improve my organization depending on my business outcomes. Now, with the leader insights, I can access them through Microsoft Teams in the Viva Insights app. I can also access them in a Microsoft team. So I can pin these to a channel within a team, and it uses Power BI as well to surface that information. So I can create a Power BI dashboard and I can add that to a team and a channel for a particular work outcome. So if you have different leadership groups working on different outcomes, I could pin a specific one. In this case, it's ways of working. And I can pin that to my team and I can, allow my leadership forum or my leadership group to view the insights from there. This is taking a little while to load, so I'm going to show you where I can pull this information. Yeah, let's do that instead. 20 minutes left. So we have these kind of 3 layers, but there is a layer behind that. And that is where we're looking at how we where the data comes from, how do we query that data, how do we, look at the business outcomes. And you can do that through a portal called Workplace Analytics. And you can see at the bottom here, the people who would be really accessing the Workplace Analytics portal would be an IT leader, someone in IT, an administrator, and or an analyst. Because what we're doing is we're going into a portal, we're querying this data, we're creating plans, and then we're then surfacing and pushing that data through to Viva Insights for the leaders and the managers to then, or more so the leaders, to then look at that data and look at that plan. So ideally, you would have an IT administrator or an analyst looking at the portal to send and create those Power BI dashboards so the leaders can look at those insights and then make processes and decisions to improve the organization. So in terms of the question that I just got in the chat while I move to the next bit of the demo, is it possible to track different applications and time spent that are used by different team members like Netflix and SharePoint? No, unfortunately, there is not. I'll show you now the data and you'll probably get an idea of what you can and cannot do. So as an IT administrator or an analyst, I would access a Workplace Analytics portal. And this is where I would create these dashboards and I would query that data. So this is the Workplace Analytics portal that your admin center you can see. And you can see on the right-hand side that I have my organization's data. And what we're actually looking at is we're looking at 549 team members. That's 101 managers, and there's different levels and there's different large teams in there as well. And I'll show you in a second how we got that information. Now, this is based on Outlook and Teams usage. But to make the insights a little bit more useful for us and more specific, I could choose to add different data sources into Viva Insights. So on the left-hand side, you'll see goodness me, I need more coffee. Data sources on the left-hand side. I've got Microsoft 365 data. So I've got my Outlook and Teams data. Now, if you want to look at this data across your entire organization, everybody will need a license. So just be aware of that. I mean, you don't have to license everyone, but whoever's not licensed, you're not going to be able to pull that information into Workplace Analytics. So just be aware of that as well. So I can look at my measured employees and I can look at my collaboration data, which you can see it defines here. It's Teams and Outlook. We also have organizational data. Now, this is where we can actually upload our own data from a HR portal. So if I scroll down, you'll see that I've uploaded, and there's lots of help online, by the way, on how to do this. There's just specific formatting in Excel that you need to do to be able to add this in. But in here, I could add different, roles within the organization, leadership teams, different levels, different layers of my organization, function types. I can add hourly rates in there. So the reason why I might want to add HR data is to get a little bit more of a bespoke view of insights. Instead of just looking at the Outlook and Teams data flat, I want to look at, how much money we're saving by doing some of these plans, reducing some of these meetings, being more productive. How much money am I actually going to save? What about the different layers and levels of my organization? What if we're doing, what is our policy around sick days? So there's lots of information you might want to add in just to make it a little bit more specific to you. But what we can also do is we can integrate to CRM. And so we can look at different, types of CRM. So if we're looking at cases or customer service or sales, we can input that information into Workplace Analytics again to make it a little bit more accurate. So if we're looking at sales, for example, do I want to look at how my sales teams, how many leads and how many opportunities, how much external collaboration do they have? And you can do a comparison. So add your own data sources would be my recommendation to make it as accurate as possible to get the best insights from it. Just while we're talking on where the data comes from, we also can exclude certain things as well. So we have meeting and attendee exclusion, which means that we could choose to exclude things that might not be as relevant to us. For example, if we want to look at meeting data, so if we're looking at who's spending time in, too much meetings or long meetings, and so on, back-to-back meetings, what I could do is I could exclude things like appointments, because when people add appointments to their Outlook calendar, they're probably not, they're not on a meeting, they probably just set a reminder, or it's a private appointment that's not relevant to work. I could exclude cancelled meetings. We don't want to know about those. Extra long meetings or large meetings, they're probably town halls. Maybe we don't want to include those. So we can also exclude certain types of data as an analyst after we've kind of, added our specific data sources. So let's take a look at what we can do with some of this stuff. So you can see I have Workplace Analytics here, and I have my business outcomes. Now, these are 8 standard business outcomes that are added as a default, and they are really great. I mean, the template default ones are great. So you can see in here, let's see, I had a question. I'll come back to your question in a second. But if I wanted to transform my meeting culture, I could open up a card and I'll get a detailed view again of those insights that we can access through Teams. But I can see that 20% of my employees are spending their time in recurring meetings. You can also go further. You can see your insights from here. You can get the kind of, here's what you should do. Here's the impact across your major teams. So HR and sales are the ones that are having, too many recurring meetings. And I could go in and I could explore the stat. So in here, I can go in and I can look at the data behind it. So I can see the highest weekly meeting hours. I can compare that to different departments in here. I could make it to specific groups, but I'm looking at the data behind the insights that are being pulled for me, which is fine. What we might want to do is query some of that data, however. So if there's a business outcome or there's something there that's not what I'm trying to do as an organization, I could go to Analyze and choose the Query Designer. So in the Query Designer, I can go in and I can look at, again, there's some templates for Microsoft. These templates are great. If I just show you some examples of other business outcomes, what am I trying to do? Am I doing a return to work site? Is there, sales effectiveness? What about well-being, balance and flexibility? Some of these templates already created for me, but what I could decide to do is I could start and create my own query. And when you create your own query type, we can look at person query. So I can look at, different trends across people across my organization. What about group to group? What about two departments, working and collaborating and doing meetings? I want to compare the two. A good scenario of where we've seen this being used is with a bank where they had two sales teams. One was outperforming the other sales team. And so what they did was they created a group query to actually look at how they were collaborating with each other. And they also did a comparison on their meetings and also how many people they were collaborating with externally. And they found that the sales team that was outperforming the other one, they were talking to more customers, and they also had better collaboration with other groups within the organization, within the bank. And so what they did was they then put some processes in place to improve the other sales team's work habits, to improve the amount of customers they were speaking to, and how much they were collaborating with different departments. So that was then increasing their revenue. It was then, increasing and helping their sales teams hit their KPIs. So what I could decide to do is a group comparison. I could do a meeting comparison. Let's do a meeting comparison for now. And let's start a new query. What I can do is I can give it a name. I'm actually not going to run this query because it does take a little bit of time to run, so just be aware of that. I can do a time period. What do I actually want to find out? Do I want to look at the total meeting cost? Who's sending emails during meetings? Are we multitasking? Are we sending instant messages? Let's just look at attendees multitasking. What I can then do is I can filter the query. So what do I want to look at? Well, I want to look at the attendee, do what kind of, is it just the direct reports that I want to include? And this is pulling it from the HR data as well. What are the attributes? Select all is usually what I would do to get as much information as possible, but of course we can customize that. And what we want to do then is hit run. And this is going to run the query for us. And what will happen is it does take a little bit of time, but we'll see it in the results. We'll see the test query is going to run for us. And I'll be able to look at, let's see if I created a meeting one before. Let's do this one. And I can look at that data in a visualization through Power BI. It takes a little bit of time. But once I can see that data for the query that I ran, I can then say, okay, we found out, what we're trying to do is we're trying to look at our meeting patterns and who's spending too much time in meetings and who's multitasking in meetings to help our team be more productive. Let's run a query and just find out maybe which departments are being impacted by that. I can run a query. I can then look at the results. And apologies, it's taking a little bit of time. But when the results come through, I can then create a plan based on those results. So I can see, all of these departments are multitasking through meetings. Their focus isn't there. What do I want to do? I want to create a plan to actually improve that. Goodness me. So from here, we would submit group. I would choose which plan I want to do. And in this case, it's a focus plan because I want people to, focus a little bit more. I can start now. And when you run that query, you can create a plan. So when I create a plan from here, I'm creating a focus plan. It will then take me, and I'm not doing it because I know it takes a little while and I've got limited time. It will take me to the plans. And in here, I can create new plans, or I can look at plans I've already created from my query designer. And I can track the progress of those plans. And I can look at the highlights. So you can see in here, this is why we want to add some of that HR data. I can see the estimated value of its savings since the plan started. The focus plan that we've created, how many hours of focus time do we have? Has that improved? What are the highlights? Great, you've had an increase in weekly focus time. Is that actually working? And this is the type of information that you could bring to the leadership team to say, look, we've analyzed, we've queried that data, we've got it in a Power BI dashboard. That dashboard can then be added to a channel for the leadership team to view. We can then put a plan in place. And then as an analyst, you can go in and say, look, the plan's working because we've saved this amount of money, we've saved this amount of much time for the organization. And that's just taking one little case of, looking at our meeting habits within the organization. So that was the quickest I think I've ever done the workplace analytics thing because we were limited on time. But it's a really great tool to be able to get that insight where where do you get that information previously? You do have things within Microsoft 365 like the productivity score, but it's not pulling this type of insight. It's really just telling you how people use the technology and their experience with the technology, whereas this is getting really, detailed insights into how people are working. So I just wanted to spend the last few minutes talking about privacy for Viva Insights, because when we, look at the insights, you can see that we actually have full control. And when the data is processed in the Microsoft Viva Insights app, Microsoft really protects employee privacy. It fully complies with any local regulation. So the one that we're familiar with is the GDPR, and it protects the privacy of each individual in different ways. So for instance, the personal insights, the individual insights, all of the content there are only available to you and they cannot be accessed by anybody else in your organization. So your personal insights are private to you. Everyone's data is kept private, so it doesn't include any personally identifiable information about anybody else in the organization. The insights and actions are based on information generated by you and your organization, just going about your regular workday. Your insights are based on information that you already have access to, but you can't really aggregate it without, help. So we have, privacy is very, very important when it comes to Viva Insights. And in terms of how it works, so Viva Insights will provide those useful insights about how your organization is doing, how your employees are functioning, and it does that by looking at your Microsoft 365 collaboration data, so that's your email and Teams data. It's looking at your organizational data, so that's HR that you can provide and you can upload. And because of, the potential sensitivity about how that data can be used, we need to really make sure we're thinking and planning in regards to data protection. So no matter how the metrics are presented or used, there's no individual activity or metric that can ever be discerned. So the individual activity can never be established with any certainty. There's no manager, there's no team leader that can conclude with any confidence anything specific about an individual, and that's very important. And it doesn't encode any specific policy. So instead, it will give control to the administrators, so that's your IT and your analysts, on how you configure the product, just to make sure you're consistent with any applicable laws or company policies when it comes to the data. And your organization chooses what data to use within the app. You don't have to add your HR data. You can just use Microsoft 365 collaboration data, which you can exclude. So you have full control over the data and how it's used within Viva Insights. And you can, customize that. You can customize the people that it's looking at. So you can look at just specific groups of people if you wanted to. You can exclude people and you can exclude, the kind of meeting queries as well. So in terms of the retention of the data, so an active tenant, we would say, is a tenant that has one or more Viva Insight user licenses. And by default, Viva Insights will initially collect and it will process and it will retain 13 months worth of data. Then it will do weekly refreshes and it will increase that history until it gets to 27 months worth of data. Once that 27 months worth of data is collected, any older collaboration data is deleted and new collaboration data is collected. So what that means is that Viva Insights will not have any collaboration data that is older than 27 months. And customers, you can file a request to initiate Viva Insights with less than 30 months worth of data. So if you wanted to do that, the minimum amount of time or data that can be collected is 1 month. So you have to have at least 1 month's worth of data being collected to get any insights. Otherwise, there's no point in using it. Now, if a Viva Insights license is removed from a user, it will still retain that collaboration data from that user from during the period the license was assigned. So your administrators can continue to query the collaboration activity, that the user participated in up until the point, of that license being removed. And that person's collaboration data will be deleted according to overall retention policies. So last 3 minutes, I wanted to just talk about why do we need Viva Insights? Well, we need Viva Insights because workers are not machines. And that might seem really obvious, but for a long time, technology has just largely ignored that fact. And whether your email, CRM, a spreadsheet, all of these IT tools are designed with an exclusive focus on productivity. They're about helping people do work as efficiently as possible. And of course, that's great. We want people to be as productive as we can be. But the problem is that most of those IT solutions and platforms just will allow us to keep working on as long as we possibly can. However, the fact is that we are human beings. We need to stop and we need to sleep sometimes. And especially in the era of remote working, it's easier than ever for people to stay connected to their enterprise productivity platforms. And so there is a real risk of people burning out. So Viva Insights is really designed to provide individuals and organizations with an idea about how people are doing at work. It comes with a variety of features that help monitor well-being in different ways and then offer recommendations to improve it. So I would highly suggest looking at Viva Insights if you have, especially a remote working, policies at work to help improve your employee well-being, which helps your organization overall. But that is why we need Viva Insights. So thank you so much. I finished 2 minutes in time there, which is great. But thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much to obviously our sponsors for this event. We wouldn't be able to do that without them. Don't forget to follow us. And of course, I'm so happy to introduce the next speaker, Anna, who's going to talk about above and beyond Microsoft Viva. So thank you very much. I'll pause there and I